Hello YouTubes, this is Grimweird coming back at you with more Enigmatica 2 Expert Mod Pack playthrough action for Minecraft 1.12.2. As always, we are joined by our fearsome avatar, Zombie Steve. And so we've been sort of just fiddling around with UU matter and matter fabricators and all of this garbage. So one of the things I wanted to do, first off, I'm not sure my game sound comes through very well on these videos anyway, but this time I have the game sound turned off because the noise from these machines was driving me nuts. I tried to fiddle with it in the IndustrialCraft 2 mod configurations, but it didn't seem to work, and then my game started getting glitchy when I played with those controls. So I have just turned sound off for now, while I'm standing next to him at least. So one of the things I wanted to try was to get us more scrap in here into our matter fabricators for our UU matter, universally usable matter production. So I did go ahead and craft up some compact cobblestone generators and ended up also then putting some extract speed upgrades into them to try and really push cobblestone in here. And I'm thinking, so I'm keeping pretty good supplies of cobblestone in there now, and I've bumped it up to 10 overclocker upgrades in each. But that's still not enough, so I might try and go a bit higher. Let's see, overclocker. So with that, I could do another 4 per with what I've got on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Let me take a look at what kind of power this bank of recyclers is using to create scrap out of cobblestone. Oops, that's not what I want. Okay, so these things don't use hardly any power, so even now at a almost 11,000% increase to power, they are still only using 3.5 thousand FE for a thing for all 8 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and see what putting 4 more in does to both our cobblestone supply and also to our power and scrap generation. So they're using up cobblestone faster than I can give it to them now again. But let's go ahead and keep going here. May as well push the boundaries. Now, as I will talk about in just a moment, I'm not even sure why I'm doing this. This is mostly just an academic exercise at this point, so that I know better the next time I try and use these things what to expect. So we're shooting scrap in there pretty good. We're still not getting ahead of it, but to be honest, I'm not sure we're making UU matter any faster either. What did we do to our power draw for our bank of things? So now we're up to almost 20,000. It's pulsing a lot, but I don't think that's actually buying us much. At this point, I might need to actually extract faster from the recyclers into the matter fabricators. But you know what? As we're going to discuss right now, I don't think I'm going to need to. I'm already at 61,000 millibuckets. And what I've done is I've set up the replicator. So the replicator is basically the machine that turns UU matter into components. And that's basically all we're doing here is we're banking energy into universally usable matter, and then we're just configuring that matter. And so this is the pattern storage. And so here is the scanner. And so basically what you do, so you can see it says scan result. And I want to save. And that puts the last thing I scanned over into the pattern storage for use by the replicator. And this is the last thing I'm going to scan, so I'm going to put this machine frame in there. And we get this lovely blue and red graphic as it's scanned. And you can see that counts up slowly. I tried scanning a few things that weren't on the list, but if we look at the uses of the replicator, so we're looking at replicator, IndustrialCraft 2, information, custom blocks that can be scanned and replicated. So I tried a few things outside of this, like draconium ore. I tried, a few other things, and they wouldn't scan. So I'm guessing that this list is about it. And even iridium ore didn't scan, so it may be an ore dictionary thing. I think there's a different iridium ore than the one I have. I think the one I have is from thermal expansion, and there's also an IndustrialCraft one, so that may be an ore dictionary thing. But it doesn't matter because I'm getting iridium ore from my void miners when I turn them on. But I went ahead and did like the electrical circuit, the advanced alloy, etc. So there's 2.5 pages of these. The only things I haven't put in there are the fusion crafting core. I don't know what secret means, and all chaos shards. But I've put the rest of the stuff in there pretty much. This is the last one, and actually the one I'm probably the happiest about, because machine frames are a pain to make. Basically anything that goes through the Empowerer or the forestry carpenter or thermionic generator or fabricator, whatever that one is. I haven't got the forestry or Empowerer super automated, so those do take a lot of futzing around. The rest of the stuff that I can make with UU matter is actually mostly mostly auto-crafted, so it's not that big of a deal anymore. But there's a few things here I'm happy for. But as this is slowly doing that, the reason I'm excited about it is that it's much cheaper than I expected. So, we got things like the advanced coil for 6 millibuckets. Now I've already got 61,000 millibuckets, so basically there's no reason for me not to make these guys in this from now on. Hardened casing is one of those ones that's made in, I think, the carpenter. I can never remember which is which, either the thermionic or the carpenter, but it's only 18 millibuckets. Machine frame. This one is sort of complicated until you get everything automated. And even then, pink slime is not super automated. I got to run over and get buckets of slime and kill the slimes. So 26 millibuckets for those. I'll take that all day. So you can see I got a bunch of stuff in here. The ultimate control circuits go through the Empowerer, so that's nice. So basically all of this stuff is good. The only thing that was even vaguely, or the most expensive thing, is a litherite crystal. And still, if I'd have gotten this going earlier in the game, this would have really helped me jumpstart my void mining. Instead of going through the terrestrial artifact stuff and empowering a ton of stuff to get to the litherite crystal. Even if you had to make like 72 litherite crystals all through this to get your first void miner or miner up and going, that's still only like 4.5 buckets of UU matter. So that might be pretty nice if you got this set up early enough and gave it some time to go. So that's some good stuff. So we finished the scan. We're going to go ahead and put that over. And so now that adds machine frames at 40 millibuckets. And let's go ahead and make something here. I haven't tried this out yet. I have piped UU matter over. So let's go ahead and cycle through here and see how this works. It's probably pretty slow, I would guess. But we got repeat run, single run, stop. We're just going to do a single run. And that's not too slow. Going to see what that's doing to our power here. Yeah, it's not too much power coming through this flux point. So that's fine. 2000. And boom, I got a machine frame. That's not bad at all. So which of the rest of these do I want? I think right now I don't need any of these particularly, except for I make a couple of those. So yeah, I dig it. This is cool. And this setup is for the point I am at in the game, with a lot of this being auto-crafted and a lot of my quest book done, and this stuff not really applying to Draconic Evolution and Avaricia and all that stuff very much. I've sort of already, I'm coming a little late to this game. If I were to replay this, or if I play something like Enigmatica 2 Skyblock, or if I get into some other mod pack, I'll definitely be looking to get into UU matter sooner, now that I know about it. And I sort of know that. I mean, I watched some snippets here and there of playthroughs from people like Iteration Funk and Hypnotized and Direwolf 20. And I know that they were all pushing for things like angel rings and UU matter and void miners, and I didn't have that same imperative because I'd never had an angel ring, and I'd never played with UU matter, and I'd never had a void miner, or not much of one, or need for one. And now that I've had all those things, I'd be pushing hard for that kind of stuff too. So there we go. We have this all set up. So one safety tip. So I'm a little flummoxed by by this thing. So we're cooking again and we're counting down again, which is good. But what confuses me is the chunk loading. So I came in here before and set this up, and I didn't chunk load because I didn't really think about this being a separate dimension that would require chunk loading when I left. Fine, my bad, okay. I accept that, no problem. So when I realized I wasn't using up my fuel, that was fine. So I came in here and it wasn't clear to me what I needed to chunk load. So I just chunk load a 3x3 area all around this. And then I came back and okay, everything was working. But then I thought to myself, okay, my machine is clearly in just this chunk. And clearly the interior of this is all in this one chunk. So I should only really have to claim this one chunk and chunk load this one chunk. So I pared it back down to just this chunk. So I basically only did this middle one, and then assumed everything would be fine and wandered off, and then I think it stopped chunk loading again. And so now I've come back and taken it back up to a 3x3 to get all the surrounding chunks, and now I think it is working again. Well, I know it is working again. So anyway, that's just a safety tip. When you're working with these compact or machines or whatever they're called, compact machines, with the little pocket dimensions for your stuff. Pay real close attention to your chunk loading and just make sure that you're really things are really staying on when you leave. In this case, I'm not doing anything with the power, and I'm not taking the power out of the cube, so I am not really seeing anything other than when I come back occasionally to see if I've spent my fuel rods and realize that my fuel rods are not being spent. So that's just a safety tip. So I guess I'm going to pause here. That's sort of the main thing I've been working on tonight was the UU matter and replicator setup here. But now I've got that all settled and good to go. So we're just going to let that roll for now. And so now I'm going to go and make just a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to go into craft mode and bust out as many gates and quest logs as I can to try and close as much of this as I can. So I will jump cut here, and I'll come back and tell you how far I got or what kind of roadblocks I ran into for closing some of these gates. Be right back. All right, time for an update. I have been crafting furiously, and let's see what we got. We got IndustrialCraft is now closed. I made some RTG fuel. And industrial foregoing. We've got everything done except for black hole storage. And that's because that's getting into some, weird like Gaia Spirit and Ender Air Bottle and just some weird stuff that we might have to go back into Britannia for. But most of industrial foregoing's done. Took a big chunk out of RF tools. I'm going to continue to push on through that. But I figured I'd stop for a moment and unload some of the loot chests that I've got that are clogging up my inventory. So we got some mana steel. It's useful. Mud bricks, not so much. Another sacred oak sapling. Another spawner seeker. More food. White stained glass. Another precision sawmill. I think that's 3 of those that we've gotten. More beef Wellington. Hey, here's something new and different. Charger for applied energistics. Sweet potato pie. Supreme pizza. An ender rod. Or 8. Lapidary calibration. I think that's good because I don't think I've made that yet. So that will, when I get the prerequisites done, that'll be a completion for us, I think. Some more food. And some more food. And a robot. And poutine. Food. Lots of food. Hardened cell frames. Yay. Those are a pain to make. Although less of a pain now that I can make machine frames with UU matter. Rainbow saplings. Oops. More food. Southern style breakfast. Another phosic resonator. We've gotten like 5 or 6 of those. Overclocker upgrades. Yay, I can always use more of those, and they're a pain to make. 12 of them. Cool. Alright, we got a lot of stuff. Some of it is even useful. And I'm going to keep on keeping on. So now that I've reclaimed my inventory, I don't think I can get far into this dimension thing here, but I'll see what I can do. And machine infuser, I should really do this because I actually have now from I think my tier 5 void miner gave me some dimensional shard ore type stuff. So I think I might actually be able to infuse things now. Not that I'm sure what that does, but I should probably check it out. So I'm going to push on through that and NuclearCraft and thermal expansion. Yeah, lapidary calibration, we just got one of those, so that'll be a freebie when I get there. So I'm going to push through these three, see how far we can get. And after that, maybe some Ender IO. Yeah, I could do some Ender IO. And after that, we're going to go back to magic for a while, I think. Do our Botania and Thaumcraft and Astral Sorcery and stuff. But I'm going to pause the recording here, bash away at this for another 10-20 minutes, and give you a final update before we close down this episode. Okay, we got a bunch more things crossed off the list here. I forget where I left off, but we got a bunch of stuff done in RF tools. As I worried, Dimension Inscriber requires some Draconium and other in-game type stuff, as does the Builder Quarry. So I think that requires a Draconic core, which I don't have any, or it just requires a reinforced cell frame, which is a pain in the butt to make, so I'll hold off on that. But made a lot of progress, got a lot of stuff done there in RF tools. NuclearCraft is closed out, so that is good. Got another green check mark there. Thermal expansion, made it through a lot of stuff here, so that's looking good. I'm going to continue pressing on through these and this stuff, and I think I can probably do most of that. However, my inventory is full of loot boxes, so I thought I'd pause a moment and open up a bunch of loot boxes. Another Horn of the Wild, another auto heavy sieve, a hang glider, another cow in a jar. That makes, oops, I've been throwing loot boxes around because my inventory was full. I think we've got 5 cows in jars now already. Plowman's Lunch, that's good stuff. Better put some of this stuff away. Should I throw any other boxes on the floor? I don't think so. More cave illuminators. An advanced charge porter. We actually just made one of those, but cool. Some lapis blocks. Some food and some more food. And some more food. Sturdy casings. Can always use more of those. More food. A builder. I think we just made one of those too. An energy acceptor. That is handy. I'll probably need to expand my ME network at some point in the not too distant future. So that'll probably come in handy. Resonant servo, 8 of them. We would use that maybe. Mob imprisonment tool. We recently just made one of those. Reactor casing. Guess that's useful if we decide to expand our extreme reactor, which we probably won't. A market for farming for blockheads. I don't know what that is, but it's rare. Might be cool. Consecrated soil. Another scanner. Obsidian pressure plates. Pistons. 8 pistons. Yeah, I'll use them. More red velvet cake. An unbreakable wand. We made one of those a while back. I liked it. Is that it? That is it. So nothing monumental, but a few things we'll use. So we'll throw all that in the bank. And now I think I got a little bit of steam left in me this fine evening, so I'm going to try and bust through these and this stuff. And maybe some Ender IO, unless I get tired. And then that is going to about cover it for us unlocking tech stuff. And then it's back to magic for a while. And we'll work on magic for a bit while we accumulate stuff we need for Draconic Evolution and Avaricia and those things. And then we'll try and finish things up. So I'm going to pause here and get back to crafting. I'm going to take a moment of time out of my crashing through quest gates and, filling out all that stuff, our backlog of things that we can make but haven't needed in the quest book, to do a little bit of mass production. So what I've got going on here is I now have my first batch of uranium fuel rods are done. So now I need to gear up to really turn my plutonium production up to 11 by switching to MOX Fuel and making a ton of plutonium. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to... Whoa, okay, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to get rid of this vacuum chest for a moment so that we can actually use our atomic reconstructor. And we are going to turn a bunch of lapis blocks into Palis blocks. I've got to go grab that one that the vacuum chest took away. Or replace it. Let's see, lapis. Oh, darn it. I wonder if it kept it in the chest. It's always something. There it is. We have a few balls of fur now. All right. Let's get this party started for real now. All right. So now we got 4 stacks of Palis Crustal Blocks, 4 stacks of congealed blue slime blocks, 4 stacks of cobalt ingots, 4 stacks of dense lapis lazuli plate, and 4 stacks of sapphire. So let's empower this business. This will be the first time I'm really just pumping a huge amount of stuff through the Empower all at once. So I just want to watch it for a moment, make sure it goes. One down. Second one started. I think we're in business. So we're going to let those 4 stacks run through. And then we will use those empowered blocks. The recipe that we're working on is Blutonium, this guy. So we now have a bunch of tiny piles of plutonium from our first batch of uranium that went through our IndustrialCraft nuclear reactor. So now we want to switch it up to MOX Fuel because it still gives you only 1 pile per MOX fuel rod, just like the uranium, but the duration is half as much, so we will go through it twice as fast. So that's what these are for. We're going to make a whole bunch of Empowered Palis Crustal Blocks. We already have a bunch of cyanite that we made with our extreme reactor. Our void miner gave us a bunch of unenthused metal and blocks of cobalt we have. So we're all good to go. So when these Empowered Palis Crustal Blocks get done, we will turn them into Blutonium blocks. We will then break the Blutonium blocks down into ingots, and we will make a whole bunch of MOX Fuel. And the reason we're going through Blutonium is that each plutonium is 9 tiny piles, whereas each Blutonium is, you use 3 to make 9, so each of these is only 3 tiny piles. So instead of 27, we're using 3. So when the goal is to get out a lot of plutonium, you definitely want to take your tiny piles of plutonium, switch them to Blutonium, and then use this Blutonium recipe to make your MOX fuel. So we're basically tripling our tiny piles of plutonium for the function of making more fuel. And then when we run through this batch of, I think I'm going to make around 324 MOX nuclear fuel. And when we run through that, we will have 324 tiny piles of plutonium to add to the 311 that we have here. Well, actually, we're going to use a bunch of that to make plutonium. But bottom line is, in another episode or two, we will have tons of plutonium and tons of plutonium, and everything will be fine. My cat is making fur balls. I need to move him away from my Empower. Inara, stop coughing up fur balls for a minute. Anyway, we're just going to let that go for now, and I'm going to return to busting our way through the quest book, and I will be back with final thoughts and final results and final loot chests for this episode in a second. Alright, and as the Empower continues to chug through its stuff off in the distance, let's see how that is. It's going along. We got over 1.5 blocks of Empowered Palis already. I have been busting out thermal expansion quests, and if we take a look, we are now done. Check mark. So as I was going through here, there were a few things that I noticed that made me think. So thermal mediator. So this improves the operational speed of adjacent blocks. So I didn't really know this. Again, this is my first time using most of these mods, so that sounds like sort of a cool thing. And also just looking at all of these dynamos and the things that you can put into them and the combinations of dynamos you can make seems really interesting, especially if you take them from basic up to resonant, and then you put upgrades in them, and then you surround them with things like thermal mediators and etc. It might be interesting just to see what you can squeeze out of thermal expansion. I don't think I'll do it here because I don't really need to, and it's sort of late in the game for that. But the next time I do a playthrough with thermal expansion, I'm definitely going to take a look at this and see what I can do with it. So that was cool. And so now let's open a ton of loot chests. Grilled cheese. Anti-block lime. Greenhouse glass. Advanced computers. Reinforced conversion kits. Fluxed electron blocks for Redstone Arsenal. Congealed blood slime blocks. Basic energy relay crystals, more draconic evolution stuff. Those might come in actual real handy. Energy acceptor, an epic one. That's nice. I now got 2 spare of those. More auxiliary transmission coils, which are good. Ooh, another compact cobblestone generator. I've got 8 of those now, but actually I think I've got all the UU matter and stuff that I'm going to need at this point. I got into that a little too late. We'll see what we need for chaos shards. If I have no idea what chaos shards are. Hamster wheel and ice pillars. But, you know, if we need to make just a gazillion chaos shards through the UU matter process, then maybe we will need more cobblestone gen. Another cow in the jar. I've got so many cow in the jar. More lapis blocks, which I guess is nice since I just burned through a good gazillion lapis over there in the Empower. A pot. Nice. I don't know anything about rustic. That hasn't been required here. It's one of those mods that I should take a look at when I get a moment. And more food. So nothing super exciting. It's always nice to have a little bit more mana steel. It's always nice to have some more conversion kits and thermal expansion upgrades. The conversion kits, I think, let you go straight from basic to reinforced. Yeah, so basic energy relay crystals. I have a feeling we're going to need some of those when we get into draconic evolution, so those are good. But all in all, the key thing is we have closed the thermal expansion chapter and are one step closer to finishing this mod pack quest book. So just a quick review here. Got to make Terra Steel, so this is on hold until we get back into Magic. Blood Magic, we could probably open the gate right now, but we couldn't get very far into it. So that's part of the magic that we're going to get back into with these, like, 4 or 5. I don't know how much psi we need to do, but we'll probably need to get into these 6 next after we finish closing gates. IndustrialCraft is done. Forestry is done. Immersive Engineering is done. Thaumcraft, Astral Sorcery, we're going back into the magic path next. Extra utilities, we need a bit of Draconic Evolution and Avaricia type stuff to finish off the last couple there. Mechanism is done. Actually, Additions is done. Industrial Foregoing, to get into black hole storage, I think we need some Draconic cores or other types of in-game stuff. So we'll hold off on that for now. Botania and Blood Magic, we'll get into all of that when we launch back into Magic here in an episode or two. RF tools, the dimensional stuff. The dimensional stuff's going to require some in-game type things, so we'll hold off on that until after we've bashed through a bunch of Magic and circle back around to the end game. NuclearCraft, done. Thermal expansion, done. Advanced rocketry. This one, I should probably look at getting back into this. However, I think I'll hit Magic for a while first and see if there's anything in there that can help us out. This is just going to take a lot of space for multi-block machines and a lot of stuff to do, so I think I'm going to hold off on advanced rocketry a bit. Environmental tech, I don't think we're going to make the tier 6 stuff quite yet, so we can hold off on that. There are some things in here that I could do most of it if I really pushed, but there's no real reason to push into tier 6 right at the moment. So I think we're going to hold off on that until after we play with Magic for a while. Ender.io, that's the next thing I'm going to do. So between this episode and next, I'm going to try and bash through as much of the Ender.io stuff if we can do. I haven't really looked at it, so I'm not sure if there's any of this that I can't create now. but I'm going to try and make all of this stuff and get that done. And then, as soon as we've gotten as far as we can into Ender IO, we're going to circle back around to the beginning and start back into Thaumcraft and Britannia and start pushing on the magic front. So that's the plan. That's where we're at. The Empower continues to chug along in the background. We're up over 2 blocks now. So we should have all the plutonium and Blutonium we need. By the time we are done playing with magic, we should be set for all of the plutonium and plutonium we could ever need. I got to take a careful look at the UU matter situation. Mostly just because this machine is driving me nuts. We're up to 198 buckets of UU matter, and I don't need a ton of the things that we can make with it anymore. I got into this a bit late, so I might turn these machines off soon just to get rid of the noise and the lag, because I think sometimes the IC2 sound sometimes seems to bug out a bit, and it's causing little lag spikes too ever since I turned on all these matter fabricators and started pulsing scrap into them with all these recyclers. Things have gotten a little funky with the occasional lag spikes and things like that. So we might take that whole UU matter thing down a notch now that we've got some buildup of 198. Well, we've got 198,000 millibuckets, and what really made me realize we'd maybe overbuilt was that most of this stuff is costing only, 25, 15. It's not costing a ton of millibuckets. I assumed a lot of these recipes would be a bucket or more, and it's nowhere near that expensive. So anyway, we might let that run for a while longer and then reassess, just because it's driving me a bit nuts. So anyway, that's the current state of affairs. Everything's going good. Another reason to potentially turn off the UU matter production, or at least ramp it down to a slower scale, is that process is using currently around 500 and some oddish RF per tick, and I think my tier 5 void miner uses around 700 and some odd thousand per tick, and at some point I might want to turn it back on, depending on, I probably don't. I think I still have tons of everything. I'm probably good. Anyway, it's mostly the noises driving me bat crazy. So that's it for now. Yeah. So next time I'll show you how far I got on Ender IO, and we will start working our way back into magic. Bye for now.